The thing about life is, it never announces when it's about to slap you in the face. No warning. No gentle build-up. Just bam. Right in the gut. Take my Tuesday, for example. Started out as any other Tuesday. Woke up, brushed my teeth, made my coffee. Sat down at the kitchen table, flipping through a newspaper I wasn't really reading, pretending not to notice that Linda had already left for work an hour early. Again, not that I was keeping score, but that made it the fourth time in 2 weeks. Now, I consider myself a reasonable man. Logical. I don't jump to conclusions. I don't go looking for problems where there aren't any. So I did what any man in my position would do. I ignored it. Until I couldn't. Because at exactly 2:47 p.m., I got a phone call from the last person I expected. Robert? Hey, man, it's Dave. Got a second? Dave. My old college roommate. We'd been friends for years, though life had shuffled us into different circles. We kept in touch through the occasional text or beer when our schedules lined up. Good guy. Honest. The kind of guy who tells you when you've got something in your teeth. So when Dave called me in the middle of a workday, his voice carrying that weird, hesitant edge, I knew something was up. What's up, Dave? I leaned back in my chair, watching the clock. A pause. Then, listen, I wasn't sure if I should even tell you this, but I saw Linda today. Okay, not exactly front page news. All right, I said slowly. You want me to tell her you say hi, or? She was with someone. And just like that, my stomach turned into a black hole. See, there's a very specific way someone says that sentence. A tone. A weight. I knew what Dave meant before he even clarified. With who? I asked, though I already didn't want to know. Another pause. You know, man, I don't think I should be the one. Dave. My voice came out sharp. Who? He let out a sigh, the kind people make when they're about to drop a grenade into your lap. Grant Holloway. Now, I don't know if you've ever experienced the unique sensation of all the blood in your body retreating at once, but let me tell you, it's quite the experience. Grant Holloway. My boss. My charming, smug, too perfect, overly tanned boss. The man who once spent an entire office Christmas party explaining how he could run the company better than the CEO. The man who owned an unnecessary number of cufflinks and somehow made Robert sound like an insult every time he said it. That Grant Holloway. For a few seconds, I didn't say anything. Mostly because my brain had temporarily short-circuited. Dave, bless his soul, filled the silence for me. They were at that little cafe downtown, Benson's. Sitting real close. Talking, laughing. She touched his arm a lot. He cleared his throat. Didn't seem like a just friend situation. You know what I mean? Oh, I knew what he meant. Linda liked to talk about little things. That was her thing. It's the little things that matter, Robert, she'd say. Like how people folded their napkins, or if they opened doors for strangers. Apparently, it was also the little things that revealed when your wife was having an affair. I rubbed a hand over my face, my pulse doing a great impression of a drum solo. Robert, Dave continued, voice careful. I didn't want to tell you this, but I also didn't want you to find out some other way. Right. Because there's nothing quite like walking into the office and catching your boss adjusting his tie while your wife reapplies her lipstick. I exhaled slowly. Thanks, Dave. You okay? Absolutely not, I said brightly. But I appreciate you asking. We hung up. I stared at the wall for a while, my brain going places it really shouldn't. Now, let me be clear. I am not an impulsive man. I do not act without thinking. I am not the type to flip a table and storm out of my house in a fit of rage. But you better believe I grabbed my keys, walked straight out the door, and drove downtown. Benson's. I hadn't been there in a while. Cozy little place. Good sandwiches. Decent coffee. Apparently, also a great spot to cheat on your husband. I walked in, half hoping, no, fully hoping, that Dave had been wrong. That this was all some big misunderstanding. That Linda and Grant were just discussing, I don't know, quarterly reports. Spoiler alert, they were not discussing quarterly reports. I spotted them immediately, tucked into a corner booth. Linda, leaning in. Grant, all easy charm and casual confidence. One arm draped along the back of the booth like he had all the time in the world. I watched, fascinated, as my wife, the woman who once gave me a 20-minute lecture on the importance of honesty in relationships, laughed at something he said and touched his wrist. Touched. His wrist. Linda had a whole philosophy about wrist touching. Said it was intimate without being obvious. Said it meant something. Well, It meant something, all right. I stood there, my mind running through all the ways I could handle this. Option A, walk over, flip the table, make a scene. Option B, confront them calmly, demand an explanation. Option C, leave, pretend I never saw anything, drink heavily later. I considered all three. Then I settled on option D, something much, much better. I pulled out my phone, took a quick picture, because hey, might need some evidence later, and turned on my heel. Linda could have her little cafe rendezvous. She just didn't know that. By the time she got home, things were about to look very, very different. And I couldn't wait to see her face. I came home in the kind of mood that makes people repaint their walls at 3 in the morning. The kind of mood that makes a man who has never cared about interior design suddenly start moving furniture just to prove he has control over something. So that's exactly what I did. First, the couch, 2 feet to the left. Then the armchair, slightly to the right. The coffee table, rotated 90 degrees. I stood back, looked at my work, and hated it immediately. Everything was off, but that was kind of the point. Linda liked things in their place. Everything arranged just so. She believed a harmonious home creates a harmonious mind. Well, my mind wasn't feeling particularly harmonious, and now neither was the living room. I threw my keys on the newly misplaced coffee table and sat down on the couch that was now 2 feet too far from the TV. My leg bounced as my brain ran a marathon I never signed up for. Linda. And Grant. Grant, of all people. I should have known she'd go for someone like him. A man who says things like, circle back, in casual conversation. A man who has an expensive watch but still asks to split the check. A man who gets through life on a smile and a handshake while people like me actually do the work. And she touched his wrist. That part stuck with me the most. Not a kiss, not some secret whispered in a dark corner, but that little, almost meaningless movement. But it wasn't meaningless, not to her. Not to the woman who once told me that physical connection speaks louder than words. Well, congratulations, Linda. Message received. I leaned back and stared at the ceiling, trying to decide my next move. One thing was clear. I wasn't going to sit around like the clueless husband in some bad made-for-TV drama, waiting for her to come clean. No, that was too easy. Linda wasn't the kind of person who confessed. Linda was the kind of person who explained her actions in a way that made you wonder if maybe you were the problem all along. No, I needed to hear it for myself. So, I got up, grabbed my laptop, and did what any rational man would do in my situation. I logged into our shared phone plan account. Linda, in all her meticulous, detail-oriented glory, never thought to change her password. Classic. Within minutes, I had access to her call logs. And there it was. A pattern so obvious I could have connected the dots blindfolded. Calls to Grant at odd hours. Some long, some just a few seconds, probably missed calls. But the real goldmine was the message history. I clicked. And then I read. And then I read again. I'll spare you the word-for-word breakdown, but let's just say it wasn't work-related. Unless, I can't stop thinking about last night, was now an acceptable way to follow up on quarterly projections. I closed the laptop, sat there for a second, and let the facts sink in. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't a one-time thing. This wasn't even just a physical affair. Linda was in deep. And that made me angry in a way I hadn't expected. Because if it was just physical, I could maybe write it off as a lapse in judgment, a stupid mistake. But this was planned, thought out, choreographed down to the minute. Which meant she had already decided that whatever we had, whatever we'd built, wasn't enough. Fine. If she wanted a new life, I'd help her get one. I closed the laptop, feeling strangely calm. Because now, I had a plan. Linda came home at 6:42 p.m. like nothing had happened. She walked in, set her bag down, and kicked off her shoes, right next to the shoe rack, because apparently, the 3 extra inches to put them in their proper place were just too much effort. I watched from the couch, waiting. She stretched her arms, let out a dramatic sigh. Long day, she announced, like I was supposed to offer her a standing ovation for enduring the hardship of whatever nonsense she did instead of working. I said nothing. She frowned, looking around. Did you move the furniture? Yes. A pause. Why? Felt like it. She made a face, but didn't push it. Instead, she walked into the kitchen, grabbed a glass, and filled it with water. That's when I decided to throw the first stone. How's Grant? It was subtle, casual, a perfectly normal question, If you ignored the fact that I hadn't once in our entire marriage ever asked her about Grant. She froze. Just for a second. A hesitation so quick that if I hadn't been watching for it, I would have missed it. Then, she turned, all innocent curiosity. Grant. I nodded. Yeah. You see him today? Another pause. Then the recovery. Oh, yeah. Briefly. In the office. In the office. Yeah. A quick sip of water. Why? I shrugged. Just wondering. She eyed me, trying to figure out if this was a trap. It was, of course. But she had no idea just how big. I let her sit in it for a minute, then stood up, stretching like I had all the time in the world. Anyway, I've got something I need to take care of. She blinked. Now. Yeah. I grabbed my keys, throwing her a grin. Thought I'd go pay Grant a visit. The color drained from her face. It was barely noticeable, but I saw it. The flicker of panic. The realization that maybe, just maybe, she didn't have full control over this situation after all. I didn't wait for a response. I walked out the door, leaving Linda standing there, her glass of water halfway to her lips, watching me like she'd just realized she was sitting in the passenger seat of a car that was heading straight for a cliff. And the best part? She had no idea just how much further down there was to go. I didn't actually go see Grant. That would have been too obvious. Too easy. And I wasn't about to give Linda the satisfaction of scrambling together some excuse while simultaneously figuring out how to spin the story in her favor. No, I had something much better in mind. Instead, I drove straight to my brother's house. Now, my brother, Danny, is not the guy you go to for emotional support. He's the guy you go to when you need to move a couch or borrow tools you'll forget to return. He's a mechanic, the kind of guy who fixes things with duct tape and confidence, and the only person on this planet who's worse at keeping secrets than a toddler with a surprise. Which made him the perfect person to talk to. Because if I wanted this information out there, all I had to do was tell Danny it was a secret. I walked in without knocking, because this is Danny, and knocking has never once been required in his house. He was sitting on his couch, feet up on the coffee table, eating straight out of a mixing bowl full of what I assumed was cereal, but could have just as easily been anything that fit on a spoon. He glanced up. You look like you just got diagnosed with something terminal. Close, I said, dropping onto the chair across from him. Linda's cheating on me. Danny blinked once. Twice. Then, without an ounce of hesitation, shoved another spoonful of whatever into his mouth and said, Knew it. I stared at him. Excuse me. He swallowed, barely. I mean, yeah, man. Come on. He gestured vaguely in the air, like that somehow explained everything. Linda's been acting weird for months. She stopped coming to family stuff, got all weird whenever your name came up, and suddenly started working late when she's never worked late in her entire life. I squinted. And you didn't think to mention this to me? He shrugged. Figured you knew. I had to take a second to process that. The fact that my own brother, who once called me at 3 a.m. because he thought his microwave was haunted, had assumed I was fully aware my wife was sneaking around behind my back. Unbelievable. I exhaled, leaning back in the chair. It's Grant. Danny frowned. Grant. Like, your boss Grant. Yup. Oh, that's rough, buddy. He shook his head. Like, it's already bad enough that she cheated, but on top of that, she went for Grant. He gave a low whistle. That's like losing a fight and then finding out your opponent used to be in a boy band. Yeah, thanks for the perspective, Danny. He shrugged. Just saying. For a moment, we sat there in silence, Danny eating his whatever it was, me trying to decide what exactly I wanted to do with all this anger rattling around inside me. I didn't want revenge. Not the dramatic kind, anyway. What I wanted was something more elegant, which is when the idea hit me. I straightened. Danny, you still got that guy? His spoon paused midair. What guy? You know, that guy. The one who helped you with the thing. Danny blinked. Robert, I swear to God, if you're about to ask me to hire a hitman. What? No. I waved him off. I mean the tech guy? The one who helped you get into your old Facebook account after you forgot the password. Danny relaxed. Oh yeah? That guy. He scratched his jaw. Why? I smiled. Because I have an idea. Danny looked at me, then at his bowl, then back at me. You know what? I don't even want details. I'm in. Which is why, 2 days later, I found myself sitting in my car outside Grant's office, staring at my phone and grinning like a moron. Because thanks to Danny's incredibly questionable friend, I now had access to Grant's work emails. And if Linda thought she was good at covering her tracks, she had clearly never considered the possibility that I would be able to see every single email Grant had ever sent her. Oh, and there were a lot. Some professional, some not so professional, and some so outrageously unprofessional that they could have doubled as an application for a job at a scandalous soap opera. But the real masterpiece? The emails Grant had sent to other women. Because, as it turned out, Linda wasn't special. She was just the latest in a long line of private meetings and business trips that were apparently only business in the sense that Grant was very busy making himself everyone's problem. I scrolled through the emails, shaking my head. This guy had a system, a routine, the same lines, recycled over and over, just with different names attached. It was honestly impressive, in a deeply pathetic way. And Linda thought she had something real with this guy? I almost felt bad for her. Almost. But not quite. I sat back, tapping my fingers on the steering wheel, considering my options. I could confront her. I could confront Grant. Or, I could do something far, far better. So, I clicked forward on one of the more, let's say, colorful emails. Typed in Linda's email address. And hit send. Then, for good measure, I forwarded a few more. Just to make sure she got the full picture. Then I put my phone down and drove home, whistling the whole way. Linda was about to have a very, very interesting day, and I couldn't wait to hear all about it. Linda came home at exactly 6:38 p.m., which was already suspicious because she usually strolled in sometime after 7 with an excuse about last-minute meetings or unexpected workload. The only unexpected workload Linda had was whatever Grant was sending her after office hours. I was sitting on the couch, waiting, looking as casual as a man who just detonated a digital bomb in his wife's inbox could be. The moment she walked in, I knew she had seen the emails. She had that look. The kind of look people get when they realize they're about to experience consequences for the first time in their lives. She dropped her bag. Again, not on the shoe rack, because why start respecting the order of things now? And turned to me with a forced smile. Hey, I said back, because technically it wasn't a lie. She hesitated. So, how was your day? I had to physically stop myself from laughing. Instead, I just nodded thoughtfully. Oh, pretty enlightening. Yours. A flicker of something in her eyes. She shifted her weight. Same. We sat in silence. I watched her. She watched me watching her. And then, because Linda is nothing if not committed to the art of pretending, she walked over and sat on the armrest of the couch, all casual. So, anything on your mind? Incredible. The dedication. The sheer willpower to act like she wasn't just exposed for cheating on me with my boss, who, as she now knew, was also cheating on her. I exhaled, shaking my head. You got my email then? Linda blinked, her face a masterclass in, I have no idea what you're talking about, acting. Email. I raised an eyebrow. The one with Grant's other, business transactions. Another blink. Another shift. Then, finally, the tiniest crack in the mask. Oh, I repeated. Silence. Then, she did the worst thing she could possibly do in that moment. She tried to laugh. Robert, you. I held up a hand, stopping her. Linda. She shut up. I let that silence sit for a second, then leaned forward, resting my elbows on my knees. Here's the thing. I don't actually care about your explanation. I don't want to hear about how it just happened or how you didn't mean to hurt me. I don't even want to hear about how Grant is different and not what I think. Because, Linda, I know exactly what he is. And now, so do you. Her mouth opened, then closed. Then, for a brief, glorious moment, she seemed to actually consider telling the truth. But Linda is Linda. So instead, she went with, I was going to tell you. I actually laughed at that one. Oh, really? When? After the next business trip? Silence. Linda had no idea what to say. She had expected anger, screaming, a dramatic breakup speech. What she wasn't expecting was calm, controlled efficiency, which made my next move even better. I stood up. So, here's what's going to happen. You and I, we're done. Obviously. But don't worry, I'm not going to drag this out. No messy fights. No screaming matches. I walked over to the counter and picked up a folder. I already talked to a lawyer. These are the divorce papers. I slid them onto the table. I suggest you sign them. Linda's face went from guilty to pale to something close to furious. Robert, let's be reasonable. Oh, I am. I turned, looking at her. In fact, I'm being far more reasonable than you deserve. She stared at the papers, Like if she just focused hard enough, they would disappear. You're not even willing to talk about this? I raised an eyebrow. You mean like how you weren't willing to tell me about Grant? A muscle in her jaw twitched. And speaking of Grant, I interrupted, you might want to check your phone. Pretty sure his wife got the same email you did. Linda's breath actually hitched. Because, yes, Grant was married. And his wife? Not the kind of woman to handle betrayal quietly. Linda shot up from the couch, grabbing her phone. The moment she unlocked it, I saw her shoulders tense. Then she slowly turned to me. Robert, what did you do? Oh, just a little public service, I said. Figured Mrs. Grant deserved to know what kind of man she married. Just like I deserved to know what kind of woman I did. Linda opened her mouth, probably to argue, but then her phone rang. I could see the name on the screen from where I stood. Grant. Linda hesitated. Then she declined the call. I smirked. Not gonna answer? She shot me a look that could have melted steel, then turned back to her phone. It buzzed again, and then, just for fun, one more time. I took my time putting on my jacket. Oh, by the way, I took the liberty of letting a few other people know, too. Linda looked up, panicked. What? Grant's board of directors. His assistant. Oh, and that guy in HR? The one who's been gunning for his position? Yeah, he's got the emails now, too. Linda's mouth actually fell open. Robert. And don't worry, I continued. I made sure to BCC everyone. Wouldn't want anyone feeling left out. I walked to the door, taking one last look at my soon-to-be ex-wife, who was now standing in the middle of our living room, holding her phone like it was a live grenade. Good luck with all that, I said, nodding at the mess she was about to deal with. I'm gonna go grab a beer. And with that, I walked out, leaving Linda alone with the wreckage. And let me tell you, nothing has ever felt better. Linda must have spent the night rehearsing her performance, because by the time I came back home the next day, she had fully committed to the role of remorseful wife who just needs one more chance. She was sitting on the couch like a sad statue, hands clasped, shoulders hunched, eyes swollen just enough to suggest she had cried, but not enough to mess up whatever carefully staged look she was going for. The moment I stepped through the door, she inhaled sharply, like she was surprised I was even there. Robert, she whispered, as if she were auditioning for a tragic movie scene. I nodded, kicked off my shoes, and walked right past her. If she wanted to play a role, fine. But I wasn't in the audience. She didn't like that. Robert, please, just sit down. Can we talk? I kept walking. Nope. Robert. She shot up from the couch, moving in front of me like a desperate campaigner who knew the polls were not in her favor. Just 5 minutes. Please. That's all I'm asking. I sighed, rubbing my temple. Fine. 5 minutes. I sat down in the chair across from her and gestured for her to start. Go ahead. Wow me. That threw her off. She wasn't expecting sarcasm. She wanted vulnerability, emotional exhaustion, maybe even some good old-fashioned tears. Too bad. She took a deep breath, probably trying to summon some kind of inner award-winning actress. Robert. She stopped, looking at me like she was about to say something profound. I made a mistake. I clapped slowly. No kidding. This is already my favorite episode of Obvious Statements with Linda. Her lips pressed together, but she powered through. You have to understand, I wasn't thinking clearly. It wasn't planned. It just happened. Oh yeah, totally. I leaned back. Because nothing says unplanned like weeks of secret phone calls and late-night rendezvous. Completely accidental. She flinched, but kept going. I wasn't happy, Robert. I didn't feel appreciated. I felt like we were just coexisting. I raised an eyebrow. All right. The classic, I cheated because of feelings argument. Strong opening. Let's see if you can stick the landing. She looked frustrated now, which meant the pity angle wasn't working as fast as she wanted. Time to shift gears. I know I hurt you. Her voice softened, shaky. I know I messed up, and I can't take it back, but I can fix this. We can fix this. Linda, I said, my voice flat. We are not we anymore. Her eyes widened like I had just told her the world was ending. Robert, don't say that. We have a life together, a home, memories. You can't just throw all of that away. See, that's the thing, Linda. I crossed my arms. I didn't throw anything away. You did. That hit her. I saw it in the way her expression faltered for just a second before she forced herself to keep going. But I love you. I snorted. Yeah, nothing says love like sneaking around with my boss. Grant meant nothing to me. Then I guess that makes it even worse, doesn't it? She had no response for that. For a moment, we sat in silence, her breathing uneven, her hands gripping the fabric of her jeans like if she squeezed hard enough, she could somehow change the past. Then, the real show began. She dropped to her knees. I blinked. Linda, what are you doing? Her voice cracked. Please, Robert, don't do this. I can't lose you. I leaned forward. Linda, you already did. Tears. Actual tears. I'll give her credit. She was really selling it. She covered her face, shaking her head like some tortured soul in a tragic novel. I don't know what I was thinking. I was so stupid, so selfish. Correct so far. She ignored that. I panicked. I felt like I was losing myself, and Grant was just there. He was a mistake. A horrible, disgusting mistake. I tilted my head. Interesting. Didn't seem so disgusting when you were texting him at 2 in the morning. She let out a small sob, wiping her face. I regret it, Robert. Every second of it. If I could take it back, I would. Yeah, that's the thing about consequences, Linda. You don't get to return them like a bad purchase. She looked up, desperate. But we can work through this. I'll do anything. Therapy, counseling, whatever it takes. I smirked. You should probably save that speech for Grant's wife. Pretty sure she's the one making him sleep in his car right now. Linda flinched again. She left him? Oh, not just left him. She threw his stuff in the driveway and changed the locks. Really an inspirational performance, if you ask me. She swallowed hard. And what about work? I smiled. Oh, I'd say Grant's job security is about as stable as your alibi was last week. Her face fell completely. You see, Linda, I said, standing up. This is the part you didn't think through. You thought you were just sneaking around behind my back. But what you were really doing was setting yourself up for failure in every possible way. Her lip trembled. So that's it. You're just walking away. I laughed. Walking? No, Linda. I ran the second you made your choice. She grabbed at my hand. Robert, I need you. No, Linda. You need someone to fix this for you. And I'm not that guy anymore. I pulled my hand away, grabbed the divorce papers from the table, and dropped a pen next to her. Sign them, I said, or don't. Either way, this train has left the station. And with that, I walked out of the room, leaving Linda sitting on the floor, drowning in the consequences she never thought would come. And for the first time in months, I actually felt free. Linda took a full week to finally sign the papers. A week filled with theatrical sighs, tragic glances, and the occasional outburst of misplaced anger. It was honestly impressive. Every stage of grief, speedrun style. First, she tried bargaining. She left notes around the house, all filled with some variation of "we can fix this, Robert," or "think of what we built together." Like our marriage was some old car that just needed a little duct tape and an oil change. Then, she tried guilt. Big, dramatic statements like, "I made a mistake, but does that mean I don't deserve happiness? And you can't just throw me away like I'm nothing." And finally, the last resort, anger. That one was my favorite. So that's it, she snapped at me on day 5, standing in the middle of the kitchen with her arms crossed. You're just done? You don't even care? I was pouring coffee. I didn't even bother looking at her. Linda, I cared plenty. That's why this hurts. But caring doesn't mean I'm stupid. Her jaw clenched. You're being so cold. Oh, I'm sorry. I turned to her, smiling. Would you prefer if I sobbed on the floor about it? Maybe begged you to stay? I just want to make sure I'm playing the right part in your little drama. She scoffed, shaking her head. You know, you're not the only one who's hurt here. That one almost made me choke on my coffee. Oh, wow. Are you actually saying this with a straight face? I am, she shouted. I lost everything too, Robert. I laughed, setting my mug down. Linda, you chose this. You didn't lose anything. You traded it. She opened her mouth like she had some grand argument, but then she shut it. Because we both knew the truth, there was no excuse left to use. No way to spin it. She had played her hand, and it turned out she bet on the wrong guy. That night, she finally signed the papers. I didn't gloat, didn't rub it in, just nodded, took them, and left the room. Because as much as I wanted to enjoy the victory, I also knew that I was officially closing a chapter of my life. One that, for better or worse, had mattered to me. 2 weeks later, she was gone. Moved out. Took her stuff, left her key on the counter, and sent me a single text. I hope one day you can forgive me. I stared at the message for a solid minute, then deleted it. Not because I was angry, but because I had nothing left to say. Linda wasn't my problem anymore. The divorce was finalized a few months later. Grant, as expected, got fired. Turns out, sending very detailed emails to multiple women using your company account isn't exactly great for job security. His wife took him for everything, and last I heard, he had relocated to some sad little apartment a few towns over. Linda? Well, she didn't exactly land on her feet. She tried reaching out once, months after everything, but I never answered. Whatever she wanted to say, it didn't matter. I had moved on. And speaking of moving on, life was good. Better than it had been in years. The weight was gone. My house finally felt like mine. One night, I sat in my living room, feet up on the coffee table, drinking a beer and watching a show I actually liked for once. And for the first time in a long time, I felt something I hadn't realized I was missing. Peace. Not revenge. Not anger. Not bitterness. Just peace. And man, it felt good. The end. Thanks for watching. Rate the story in the comments. Subscribe to the channel